Welcome to
Oh,
Minerva Meets. I'm your host, Sonal Chandler, and this is episode 19. Today, I've got John Hobbs with me, and we are going to be talking about patents. Now, you would normally think that patents wouldn't necessarily apply to cybersecurity or AI, but let me tell you, they do. And John is going to demystify all of this for us. Welcome to the show, John.
hi, Sanal. Nice to see you again. Thanks for having.
Likewise. Well, why don't you tell us first a little bit about yourself and how you got into patent law, and then we'll dive into these different topics.
Sure. So the short story is I was doing my PhD in neuroscience and physics, and I built some equipment for my experimental paradigm, and the university brought in some patent lawyers. And by the time they left, they had offered me a job.
Wow.
And within a couple weeks later, I was in their office working. I'd finished my PhD, but was also working with the patent lawyers at the same time. So that's how I got into the field.
Nice. And remind me again, you speak a couple of different languages too, don't you?
I do speak Japanese.
That's
Yeah,
right. So you spent some time in Japan.
I did. I lived in Japan for more than a decade, and I actually I did a year undergrad in Japan, and so really love the language, love the people. It's an amazing place, amazing culture, and yeah, so it was a lot of
Very
fun.
cool. We'll have to
And
have a sidebar.
yeah, I worked for Japanese companies helping them get patents in the U.S.
Got it. Got it. And so now you are founder and CEO of IP Solution.
Yes, yeah. So mainly helping local companies here in Georgia and the surrounding states to get patents.
Nice. Well, let's dive in. So, when I think about cybersecurity and AI, these are technologies that I don't necessarily think about patents, right? Because in my mind, as a layman, I really think of, things like inventions that are patentable. So, can you kind of break that down a little and explain how this applies to the world of cyber or even AI?
Sure. So yeah, you're right. Typically, when we think about patents, we're thinking about, widgets like
Right. Yeah.
your can opener or your blender or something that's a physical object. But really, patent law is about an idea. So when you get a patent, you're patenting the idea of something. Now, and software patents, so you can patent software,
Mm-hmm.
and software patents have been around for 50 years.
Right.
So, and of course, if those patents didn't exist, then you wouldn't have big companies like Oracle and
Right.
Microsoft. Those companies, that's how they defend themselves. That's how they keep creating new products. So it is kind of strange when you think about, oh, what's a software patent? Why I thought patents were for, patenting and some kind of widget, but it's really a patent is the idea of something. And for most businesses, it's their business idea. It's really the lifeblood of what their product is. That's the patent.
Mm-hmm.
So the tricky thing is though, so in 2014 there was a landmark case named Alice v. CLS Bank, and that redefined kind of the standards for which you can get a patent for something.
Okay.
So in terms of software, so the, the patent was about the patents at dispute were about a business method patent, and they unfortunately weren't able to. The patent was actually invalidated by CLS Bank, and the reason for that was because the patent was directed towards just the generic function of a computer. So there wasn't
Uh,
any inventive concept. So the bar has been raised by Alice, that
Hmm.
case. So if you want to get a patent on some kind of software, you really need to have a true inventive concept. You can't be just using AI to, go find something on the internet or something. It has to be a real inventive concept
Hmm.
built into that idea.
That's super interesting because now, everybody's using AI, everybody's leveraging the, the idea generation, method in AI. And so, how can you tell what's true and new versus just another idea?
Yes, so it's all about the problem you're trying to solve. So, if you're just using AI to um, identify something on the internet, well, there's tons of search engines out there. That
Yeah.
is not a new idea, you
Right.
know.
Right.
It has to really it really boils down to something being a new idea, and the inventive concept is somehow enmeshed in that new idea.
Gotcha.
So you don't have to invent a new AI algorithm. You can use existing AI algorithms, but it's
Okay.
about how you solve that problem. So a lot of my clients are not they're not writing or they're not coming up with a new artificial intelligence algorithm.
Hmm.
But the solution that they've come up with, there were real hurdles that they had to overcome, and that required research and development and
Hmm.
coding. And when they found that solution, there's a real problem that exists.
Sure. Sure.
See, and that's what I explain in the basically that's what I outline in the patent.
Gotcha. Okay. So then have you had, you know, I'm sure there are people that come to you and they say, I've got this great idea. I want to get a patent. And then as you sort of walk them through this process, you conclude that this is not a unique idea. This is more of the same.
Sure, that happens. It does happen.
Yeah,
Uh, and yeah, it doesn't mean that they can't pursue that business
sure.
idea. They can still pursue that business idea. Um,
True.
yeah, so, but um, it adds a level of protection
Hmm.
for the business idea. And it also, right, so the average US patent sells for 300, over $300,000.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Okay.
that adds to the bottom line of your business, right? So
Yeah.
when you're going to try to do an IPO or you're going to try to sell your business at some point, right? No one keeps a business forever.
Right.
So when you do that, when you try to go for that sale or an M&A, that's it adds, at least $300,000 per patent to the bottom line.
That's amazing. And
Mhm.
so, and I want to come back to the cybersecurity piece, but just one quick question. How long does it take to get a patent on something like software or AI and, well, software in general?
Sure, sure. So to apply for it, so it usually takes me probably about a week,
Okay.
to write a patent. So, and I'm usually a few weeks out. So if you call me today and said, "Hey, I've got this great idea," probably in 3 weeks we could have a patent applied, submitted for you.
Okay.
And
Okay.
from that point on, you have protection. So you have a patent pending at that point.
Got it. Okay. Gotcha. Now that
Then
makes sense to, yeah.
So then you go about your business and you can go out and you can sell, if you're selling a SaaS product that's,
Yeah.
some accounting software or something, you can go out and sell it, no problem. If somebody copies, you can go sue them.
Mm-hmm.
Have
Gotcha.
a patent pending at that point. So it's really important to get that patent pending because if you don't and you go sell something, then it's what's called a statutory bar. So
Mm, okay.
if you're putting your products on display and selling something, then you can't get a patent after. If someone can see it, right, then it's public and it's known. So
Ah,
you can only get a patent on something that's not known, right? Not known by the public.
gotcha. Okay, there's all these little nuances about these things, and it makes me kind of wonder, like something like cybersecurity, right? When it comes to different types of
Sure.
encryption or network or things like that. Like how do you patent something like that? Because some of that is known.
That's a good question. Well, if it's known, then you can't get a patent on it.
Sure.
Uh,
Okay.
so one common misconception though is so people think, oh, well, I don't want to show people my code. Well, that has
Yeah.
nothing. So patent has nothing to do with code. So
Oh,
yeah, so
interesting.
when you apply for a software patent, your patent is on the method and the means of using that software, not the code.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So, right, so there's a couple of different parts of the patent. So the description is basically it tells everything about the patent. And then
Right.
the claims set out the legal metes and bounds of your invention.
Okay.
The claims in a software patent, I'm going to claim the method of how your software operates. Now that may be okay, computer A is going to send this information to server B. Server B
Mm-hmm.
is going to perform some statistical calculation on it. Then it's going to check, then it's going to receive an image from server C.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay.
That image is going to be transformed or compressed on server D, and then the data, so
Yeah.
that's the method of the
Sure.
software. It has nothing to do with the code. The code never appears, right? Because the code's
Yeah.
always changing anyways. It's really about the
That's
method
true.
of
Yeah.
using the software. And then also we'll we will claim the computers that are running that software. So,
Yeah.
a computing system, the
Hmm.
claim will be something like a computing system that does XYZ.
Gotcha. Okay. So then let's pretend I'm an early stage startup and, when is it time for me to say, "Oh, I should probably get a patent on this?" And, how do I create this culture around me to, have my employees innovate and try to go after patents?
Right, right. Really, is if you've found a problem that's worth solving,
Hmm.
then you've probably found a product that has a market fit, right? As soon as you've come up with that, if you think you can solve that problem, you should
Hmm.
call.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
That's as soon as you think you could, as soon as you believe that you can solve that problem and you think there's a product market fit, the product market fit is a business decision, but it's up to the innovator really. Do they really want to pursue this thing? And when I come across an innovator or an entrepreneur that
Yeah.
has that they've figured out this problem, they figured out a solution to the problem, there's no question. They're like, I need a
Hmm.
patent today. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
they're really, they're so motivated to do it,
Sure. Yeah, well,
push the
I'm I'm thinking about like, if you've ever worked in a software development, near a software development team, there's constant trial and error, right? And that constant trial and error is what gets them to the final product. And in that trial and error process, is there an opportunity to potentially patent something, or is that's not really what you're referring to?
um so yeah, probably not the trial and error
Okay.
portion, right? So it's broader than that. So that's kind of that's kind of the myopic part of the problem that I'm not concerned about.
Got it.
So they've already, if they're doing some work on a problem,
Hmm.
then we would know what that problem is. And yeah, there's probably a many different iterations
Sure. Yeah.
that you can go through to solve that problem. And I'm going to put all those iterations in the patent, right?
Got it. Got it.
The
Okay.
best one, the best one, the best solution that we come up with, that's what will be in the claims.
I see. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Now, let's kind of go back to that case you brought up of Alice versus CLS Bank,
Uh-huh.
and tell me a little bit more about, how that sort of has changed the game of patenting software.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So basically, you can't just claim, just make generic claims of a computer, so a computer doing something.
Hmm.
So, say for example, a SaaS accounting software system, you can't just broadly claim, this
Yeah.
method of doing accounting with a SaaS system. It has to be something more. There has to be some inventive concept that is solved by the computer that you're that
Gotcha.
and the great thing is the USPTO, the United States Patent and Trademark Office, gave us an example of what is patentable software subject matter. And January 2019, it's a few years ago, but example 39, if you're interested in looking this up for yourself, they gave an example. It's actually using artificial intelligence
Mm,
to detect malicious packets. Um, yeah, and for cybersecurity. So
interesting. Okay.
the method utilizes, known statistical measures to analyze what's in these packets.
Hmm.
And when it detects something that exceeds a threshold, then it drops the packets and drops a connection. So it's artificial intelligence based. There's an AI algorithm
Hmm.
uh, that they list in the example. So,
Which is interesting because number one, just to point out to our listeners that you said 2019, right?
mhm,
And I want to point that out because generative AI became very popular in I think 2022, right? So this just is
yeah,
another proof point that AI has been around forever, right? So it's not just something that
yeah,
started since the onset of generative AI, right? It's been around. But then another thing that's
yes,
interesting is that's a great explanation of the method, right? The method versus, the actual, the details of, what's happening there. So that method of how it's leveraging AI to detect these things in the packet and taking some action on it is what's being
yes,
patented.
yes, yes. It's not the software code, and
Yeah, yeah.
which is what, a lot of people, a lot of software developers are concerned about. Oh, I don't want to give my code away. Well, that doesn't happen. We don't do that.
Right, right. And so, speaking of that, are there companies that tend to file more patents in this, cyber or AI space versus others? Like, do you continuously hear some over and over again?
Sure, sure, yeah. So in recent years, IBM has applied for, or they were granted, I think, 200 um,
Oh,
AI cybersecurity based patents last year. So IBM's the number one filer um, in the space really right now.
yeah. And all these, and I know this is not necessarily your space, but do you often get a lot of questions about the privacy and data as it relates to AI because there's so much discussion around that and governance around AI, right? So then when you're trying to write a patent, and I know you mentioned it's about the method, but how do you approach data and privacy when it comes to that?
Oh, that is a great question.
Hmm.
And I have the patent is only, you know, the only material that is included in that patent is whatever the inventor has told me, and that's just the inventive subject matter. So
Okay.
unless it's a patent um, that is directed towards um, personal information, or maybe that's the problem that they're trying to solve,
Yeah.
then that's what that would be in the patent. But otherwise, yeah, it's not going to be in there's not going to be anything in the patent about that.
Privacy and yeah,
Yeah.
okay. That makes
No,
complete sense.
yeah, I'm only, my job is just to describe what the problem is that the inventor's trying to solve.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm sure there are, ethical concerns, um,
Yeah.
and data privacy issues, but I don't.
That's the other attorney, right?
Yeah, that's somebody else. That's not my job. I'm not trying to solve those issues. But yeah, that is a
Sure.
problem. That is
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, before we kind of jumped on here, you were talking about how a patent adds value to an organization. So let's talk a little bit about that. And you had some pretty interesting numbers. So I'd love to tell our audience a little bit more about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, I work with a lot of newer companies, startups, and smaller companies. And of course, it's all about the burn rate,
Yeah.
right? They're trying
Yeah.
to preserve their runway as long as possible, but also, they have to get patent protection, because like I said, the average sale price of a US patent is over $300,000.
Right.
So that goes into their valuation. And ultimately, the CEOs in particular, they're constantly on the hunt for investors or angel money, or, you know, they're constantly,
Of
right?
course. Yeah.
And, that's one of the first questions that investors ask. It's like, is this patented? Did
Hmm.
you apply for a patent? So if they're not prepared for that question, then it looks pretty bleak for their
Yeah.
opportunity funding. So PitchBook, I'm sure you've heard of PitchBook.
Yeah.
Last year they published that startups that have at least one patent raise 10 times the amount of capital that startups that don't have patent, and those same companies are 5 times as likely to exit than companies that
Wow.
have patents. So I don't know if it's because of the patents, or it's the particular type of person that just really does things.
Right. Right.
It's
Yeah.
that's because there are people in the world that there's some entrepreneurs that just get things done. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's they're the deciders. They decide they're going to do this. They get the patent, they get the accounting straightened out, they get
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the type of companies don't succeed because of patents. They succeed because of leadership.
Totally. Completely agree with you.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, there's just the huge difference between leadership styles and leadership capabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's actually really interesting to understand. the value that a patent can bring to your overall value, organizational value, right? Because when you're going through this startup process, and I've worked for quite a few startups, and raising capital and how you spend it is such a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So if you did have that in your back pocket, it only kind of makes you shine a little bit brighter, right? So,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, I think it speaks to the clarity of ideas,
yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah.
So a lot of times entrepreneurs are, they don't really know what their problem they're solving or what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
They have a sense of it, but if there's a real clarity of ideas, then they definitely, I find those people really, they're really motivated to get a patent.
Yeah, absolutely agree. You talked a little bit about a patent wall of fame. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure, sure. So, companies that really want to innovate and want to motivate their employees. A local company, Home Depot, here
Hmm.
is headquartered here in Atlanta,
Yeah,
and they have a patent wall of fame.
that's awesome.
Yeah, so they actually frame their patents, and they celebrate the employees' efforts that are going, that are innovating in the company and applying for patents and getting patents granted. So there's all kinds of methods for motivating your employees, but I think just having that company culture,
Yeah,
of constant innovation, because companies that don't innovate don't survive. I
yeah,
mean, especially with AI, the way at the rate AI is moving today. Wow. If you're not innovating, then you're being left behind. Somebody else is doing it, right?
yes. And in all of my podcast episodes, this tends to come up is this
Yes.
concept of embracing innovation, right? And truth be
Yeah.
told, when you think about motivating employees, to be honest, I never really thought about the fact of, well, encouraging them to apply for patents on things that they may have discovered is a truth, especially like from a technical perspective. I think it's so important. So I really appreciate that you're bringing this up and would love to hear any other tips that you might have for organizations to create this culture of innovation. Any thoughts on that?
Sure. I mean, I've heard of companies paying employees, $1,000
Yeah.
bonus just for coming up with a good idea that is patent worthy, right?
Right, right,
So,
yeah.
if you have a great idea, then you can talk to counsel. If you have inside
Mhm.
counsel or outside counsel, discuss that with them, and if it's approved as a patentable idea, then they get a check for $1,000.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
tell me something about this. So, if I'm working for a company like IBM and I come up with
Sure.
this great idea and it's patentable, then is IBM's name on it or is my name on it or
Oh,
both of our names?
your name is on it. It's your idea.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you would be the applicant, but
Got
or
it.
the inventor.
Sure.
The applicant would be IBM,
Got
and
it.
the
Okay.
IBM, when you're hired by IBM, you're going to have some kind of an invention IP agreement in your employment
Ah, sure. Sure.
contract,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
they're going to be the applicant, which is the owner, but you're going to get something, right?
Sure.
Get
Sure.
some kind of royalty on
Yeah,
whatever.
I hope so.
Yeah, you're going to get some kind of royalty, whatever's in your employee
Yep.
contract.
Got it.
Um,
Okay.
Whatever royalties are earned on that, then that's what you're going to get. So, but then,
Nice.
typically they also pay some kind of a bonus. Could be 1,000, could be more.
Right. Right. Well, tell me if this whole process of getting a patent, do you have any tips on, how to make that process smooth and as quick as possible?
Sure, of course. It's always good to have some kind of, you're doing some kind of record keeping
Hmm.
uh, in terms of what problems you're solving, who's involved with it, what parts of the problem that each person solved. You want to, a lab book or an experiment book or something,
Hmm.
whatever area you're working in. If it's software, you want to just make sure you're annotating the code, who did what,
Sure.
where,
Yeah.
and at what time, so that we can track down who is the inventor of what portion, because that matters
Yeah.
for the patent.
Yeah.
So,
Very cool. Well, this has been a super interesting conversation, and I would love
yeah,
to hear any final points or thoughts that you have around patents and software and AI and cyber. Any tips or final thoughts?
sure, absolutely. Um, you know, talk to somebody early
Yeah.
before you dump a ton of money into something. Talk to me early. Um, and you can do that by going on my website at www.ipsolution.law/contact, and the first appointment link there. You can book an appointment with me and we can talk.
There you go. And you can also find John on LinkedIn. He's very active on LinkedIn. So if you are interested in just getting to know John a little bit better, you can actually go onto LinkedIn and he's got a ton of videos out there. It'll give you a feel of who he is and how he can help you. So, make sure that you go out there and check him out there. And I just want to remind people that if you want to get in contact with Minerva, you can reach out at let's talk at minervaconsultinginc.com. You can go to our website at minervaconsultinginc.com. And before I sign off here, I'd like to ask our listeners to take three quick next steps. One, please subscribe to the podcast. Two, leave a rating. And three, add a comment. I read all of them and I appreciate it. John, it was such a pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you for dispelling the IP and the patent world a little bit to us. So thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to having you back.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.